The Plainville Board of Education, preparing students for success in a changing global society.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Ed meeting. We'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mrs. Peterson, can you start us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are we ready? We have special presentations today for Everyday Hero Awards. Cheryl Michaud, grade 4 teacher, Wheeler School, and Michelle Morel Tavernier. Sorry if I messed up that name, from PHS Paraprofessionals.
Thank you very much. So let me get into the details of those awards. Our first Everyday Hero tonight will be Cheryl Michaud. She was nominated by Andrew Batchelder, and here's what he had to say. Last week, and this is going back several weeks ago, I was very fortunate to be in the office when a young man and his mom were buzzed in. The young man, should I say exactly what you said, Mr. Batchelder, who is 29 years old but looked much younger than that, we'll leave it at that, was carrying a book in his hand and asked if he could speak with Miss Michaud. After some polite inquiry, I learned the book he was carrying was the first book that was recently published, and he was the illustrator. I also learned that Miss Michaud was his teacher for 2 consecutive years in 4th grade, as he had had some challenges with reading at that time. Well, this young man went on to graduate from Mitchell College. He is currently working on his 2nd book, and he came back to give Miss Michaud a copy of his first book to thank her. He said, "I would never have learned to read the way that I did and be successful in school if it weren't for Miss Michaud." Well, you can only imagine that there was not a dry eye in the house after that beautiful scene. And in Mr. Batchelder's opinion, and I couldn't agree more, it's such an honor to have a student come back and tell you the impact that you made on their life. It's almost like being Teacher of the Year, only better. So I think we were fortunate enough to bring our author back, and I forget your name? Michael. Michael's our author. He's published, and he came, an illustrator, and he came back to thank his teacher. So I'd like to bring Michael up and Miss Michaud as our everyday hero, and Mr. Batchelder too. Congratulations. Come over here for a photo op. Ready? Step over to your right.
Thank you very much.
Well, our second nominee or award winner this evening is Michelle Tavernier Morel. She is a library media paraprofessional here at the high school, and she was nominated by Maria Colangelo, which I guess you figured that out now, Michelle. The surprise is over. But Maria writes, "I have lost count of how many students consider the PHS media paraprofessional, Michelle, their mentor. She does so much more than simply check students into our media center and help guide students with research. She offers a listening ear and a place of solace to both students and staff. It's not unusual to see students gathered around her sharing their uplifting news or perhaps a struggle or a challenge. Michelle is always ready to go offer sound advice and kind words. She teaches our students the most important lessons they can learn by consistently modeling kindness, compassion, and acceptance. Michelle is a vital part of the PHS village that helps raise our young adults. It is a sincere pleasure and honor to work with Michelle and to nominate her for this award. So I'd like to congratulate Michelle and invite Maria and Michelle up to receive this award. All righty, and that concludes our Everyday Hero presentations for this month.
Continuing on, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of the October 9th, 2018 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
Thank you. Joan, I have a question. Could we did all four of them at one time. Is that okay? Okay.
I can amend my motion that we approve of the minutes of the October 9th regular meeting, that we also approve the minutes of the board's special meeting on October 9th, and also that we request approval of the special meeting on October 25th, 2018.
Second.
Set. Okay, and we're moving on to citizens' comments. Was I supposed to say something else? Is there any response to citizens' comments? Nope. Okay. Council liaison, Mrs. Puglisi.
Good evening, everybody. Kathy Puglisi, 50 West Broad Street. That was a little loud. I have a few, not too much to bring back to you this evening, but I do want to begin my, my comments about an absolutely wonderful event I attended this morning at the Middle School of Plainville for Veterans Day. It was really outstanding, I have to tell you. All the students were in attendance. Suzanne Schweitzer was the MC, and she had a large part in coordinating and putting it together. The middle school band played music. There were veterans, current duty and prior duty. It was the most amazing program that was put together, and I've been to other Veterans Day programs throughout the district, not all of them, and I hope to keep attending them, but I must say that this was absolutely wonderful. It really was. Our fire department brought their fire truck with a gigantically huge flag that everybody was able to see outside. I think there was a military vehicle outside that the students were able to kind of look at and go around. So please extend my sincere and heartfelt thanks to the staff, to everybody involved. The children were wonderful. Everybody there felt all of that we should on Veterans Day. So it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you again for the invitation. I also, before I begin, would like to congratulate Mr. Johnson, new PHS principal. Welcome to the big job. I'm sure you'll do just great. A few things that I have for you. The probate court in Plainville is transitioning from Bristol and Plymouth probate to the Farmington-Burlington probate district. This will occur January 1st, so if anybody after the 1st of January has needs for probate issues, you'll be going to Farmington rather than Bristol, where we had been for many years. So that's one thing that will be changing. We recently had an update on our road paving program. We had a $5 million road bond program that was approved by the voters in 2014. The plan was to spend approximately $1 million a year for 5 years to repave roads in the town. A list has been created, and we've been diligently working on that. Some of the roads that were last paved dated from 1972 to the early 1990s, as you can imagine. They needed a little facelift, if not more than that. So we are continuing to do that. We have 2 other roads which have been paved along with our paving program during this time are Cook Street and a portion of Northwest Drive. These roads were paid entirely with grants from CROG, which is the Capital Region Council of Government. We applied for a grant to take care of that. We were awarded the grant, so 100% of that was paid for through the Regional CROG Association. Over the last 4 years, a total of 10.234 miles of local streets have been repaved, utilizing both town and grant funds. And the list of roads to be repaved next year has not yet been finalized. We often are asked by many residents, when is my street going to get done? My street is bad. And certainly, probably that's quite true for the most part. However, there's a scoring program that our town engineers look at, and they determine which ones should make sense, and they generally do a portion of town all at one time. So, so we are moving along with the with our paving program. As you probably are all aware, we've been doing some upgrades to our railroad crossings in town. This is an interesting process whereby the railroad really has complete control over what happens. We cannot do anything to any of those railroad crossings. The state DOT has been instrumental in helping us get the railroad to start fixing some of these things. They have been creating some difficulty. So we've had 3 of the crossings already repaired. There's one more that has not been done yet, but we're trying to get that on the schedule for the railroad to take care of that. Plainville is very interesting that we have so many railroad crossings in our town within a relatively short distance. And being in New England, weather, all kinds of issues take place, and the rails that cross the road oftentimes have material that lift up, and it creates a difficulty for those that have to travel over these things. So we're pleased that we were able to get the railroad to understand the trouble that we're having, and they've been great about coming down, taking care of it, and so we're working on it. We've got most of them done, maybe one more to go. We recently had a grand opening of a new business in town. The Goodwill store opened last week. It's on New Britain Avenue. It used to be formerly known as the Chung property. It was a piece of property that pretty much lay vacant and unused for more years than we cared to have, but there were some remediation issues that had to be taken care of, and the owner of the property finally was able to put together a project, and Goodwill opened up. I will tell you, I went to the grand opening. I have never seen so many people for a grand opening. The store had not opened. The line was down the parking lot, around the corner, out to the street. It was remarkable. It really was remarkable. But it is a store that, again, takes in donations of clothes, household goods, furniture, lots and lots of things, and they sell them. And people come and they take good advantage of whatever they have there. So it was really pretty crazy grand opening, but I was told that's not untypical of when a new Goodwill store opens, so we're happy to have them in town and that the property has been revitalized. And finally, we just all went through an election. Some states are still going through an election. There are some states that have issues with trying to get the ballots counted, trying to make sure everything is done in a legal and timely fashion. I will tell you that the town of Plainville went through the election without any problems. The results were tabulated. They were delivered to the Secretary of State the next day. So we have a great team of our registrars of voters along with our town clerk that make sure when we have elections, things run smoothly, and we try to foresee any issues that may arise, and we didn't have any. So I want to give a shout out to those folks for keeping things smooth. That doesn't happen everywhere else, unfortunately, and we can see what results from that. So finally, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, to you and your families. I hope it's healthy and you enjoy your time off, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first item on my report this evening will be an update with regard to our Professional Development Day and our Veterans Day celebrations from Rosa Perez. She'll be updating the board on the events of our Staff Development Day held on Tuesday the 6th, Election Day, as well as our amazing Veterans Day events, as you just heard from Chairwoman Puglisi. As the board may be aware, Channel 3 and Channel 30 covered our Veterans Day event today at the middle school, and one reporter commented to me directly that she's never seen anything like what we do in Plainville and other school districts that she's visited. So we have a lot to be proud of for today's Veterans events. But I'd like to bring Rose up to give us some more details on both Veterans Day and Professional Development Day.
Hello, no numbers tonight. Good evening, Board of Education members, Dr. Brummett, administration team, and all present here tonight. It is my pleasure to share news of celebration for our veterans and our November Professional Learning Day. First, our Veterans Day, fresh in our minds. All schools throughout the district pause to honor and celebrate our veterans and active duty military personnel. Students participated in assemblies, prepared artwork, decorated doors, shared musical performances, served and prepared food, and spent time as a family honoring the service and sacrifice of our veterans. All present were engaged and even shed a few tears during readings and TAP's performance. The veterans who shared their stories expressed their immense gratitude for our recognition and our celebration on this special day. They appreciate how our schools pause and celebrate Veterans Day, and also thanked us for our efforts to teach the children to honor and recognize their service to our country. The next slides are from the activities in our schools. First, we have the high school. We had a poster competition. Then we had a breakfast with the veterans and their families. We also had a door decorating competition as well. I don't think the winners have been announced. Maybe this is a clue. And then we had musical performance, and then one of our teachers who's also a veteran. The next slide is from the amazing program from middle school, the flag in the front. This is, as you're driving, that is the first thing that you see. Then there was a display where pictures from veterans and their family members from the school were on display. The Library of Middle School of Plainville also prepared readings for the students about veterans and about war, teachers, and then all the different branches of the military. The next slide, then it was our middle school students also participating, doing some artwork, and picture of Mr. B, proudly, who is a veteran as well. Next, we're going to our professional development news. During the morning of November 6, all PHS faculty and staff participated in the safety and security training led by the Plainville Police Department. The training offers statistical information about school gun violence and about school tragedies since Columbine. Sergeant Marquis, SRO Martins, and additional police department members offered information and strategies on how to deal with the possibility of an active shooter in the building. The videos and live practice scenarios offered our faculty and staff strategies that can protect lives. After the 3-hour training session, faculty, staff, and administrators had the opportunity to debrief the morning exercises. After the training, we all felt empowered that yes, there are ways we can defend ourselves and our students in the case of a violent attack. This training will continue to include the rest of the faculty and students from the middle school and the high school in subsequent professional development. While this training was in progress, the middle school faculty had the opportunity to continue their conversations with departments about standards-based grading. The elementary faculty members were also busy deepening their knowledge about literacy, teaching, and also about how to implement NGSS through the Why is Our Corn Changing unit. Elementary grades will share this unit starting in January for the purpose of cohesion among all schools and grades. I am sure that under the direction of Mrs. Graham Douglas and the instructional resource teachers, the launching of the first NGSS unit will be a success. And this was the morning. Then we all went for lunch. And during the afternoon, the special education and school counseling departments attended a presentation to further their knowledge about legal issues for special education. Shipman and Goodwin Law Firm offered their knowledge and expertise during this presentation. At the same time, the rest of the faculty had the opportunity to learn about the Ruler program and mindfulness. The purpose of the program was for adults to learn about how to capture and process our feelings throughout the day. Also to learn how to take a moment to center ourselves for the purpose of relaxation. Dr. Bromett, Mr. LePage, Mrs. Trasinski, Principal Eshu, and Linden staff have been trained in the Ruler program and mindfulness already. Staff will continue learning about the Ruler program and mindfulness in subsequent professional learning days. This way, we can all deepen our knowledge about the importance of living a more balanced and relaxed life. During the second part of the afternoon, we concentrated in learning about the English learner population in Plainville and how to better serve them in the classroom. After this mini presentation, we continued our journey into culturally responsive education, learning how to respond and educate students who use mean words with each other. Lastly, we also offer CPR and EpiPen training for those who needed to renew their certification. As you can see, we had another successful day of professional learning for our faculty, staff, and administrators. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Perez, and I want to thank you, as well as Ms. Graham Douglas, for organizing all of that. And it's not a small undertaking to corral 400 staff members during the course of the day. And together as a team, that day went very, very well. And I also want to publicly thank, although Ms. Perez already alluded to it, our tremendous partnership with the police department. We worked hand in glove that day on our safety training. Their feedback to us was very positive. Our teachers took it seriously and immediately implemented some of the strategies. We are going to train students here at the high school, I believe, on the 21st. Mr. Johnson's going to be alerting parents to that. a slightly modified version of what the teachers received. And then subsequent to that, in March, we anticipate the middle school faculty will get very similar training. But I think without the police, we could not have done that level of training on our own, or we would have had to pay for very expensive consultants to come in. But we felt like the police would be the ones responding to something that were happening. We want people that know us, know our schools, and they felt that it was very important to have the training here so they could take us around and assess the facilities with us. So again, it was a very powerful and tremendous feedback positively from all folks that were involved. So thank you so much again to the curriculum department for coordinating all of these things. Much appreciated.
Just one question, Maureen. I didn't think of it until you started speaking. Is this something that will also go to the elementary level as far as that's concerned, or?
Yes, we absolutely will be doing that. Once we've done the middle school, we're going to continue to assess it. The messaging will be much different for elementary for obvious reasons. I think the bulk of that training will be teacher-centered, where then we train the students, follow what your teacher says. So we're working on that. We anticipate doing that probably in more of a faculty meeting format, but we're still working with Sergeant Marquis, SRO Martins to finalize those plans. But yes, district-wide, everyone will get the same message, just in a slightly modified format for the younger ones.
Certainly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. The next part of my report is about more good news. We have once again received numerous CABE awards. This Friday, we will head to the CABE conference, and I know most board members plan to attend. And during a portion of that day, we'll be called in for getting honored and our picture taken with the Commissioner of Education. We have received numerous honors, honorable mention for the Bonnie B. Carney Award of Excellence for Educational Communication. We were also recognized for some of our publications, such as the Going Green publications, which highlight our energy conservation efforts. The Plainville Community Schools Business Brief booklet that goes out periodically has won an award. Honorable mention was awarded for the Adult and Continuing Ed Program Guide. Honorable mention was awarded also for the Plainville Community Schools website navigation video, which was actually completed by two PHS students, Nora Clement, who did the original one for how to work on mobile devices, and then Travis Levine did the tutorial for our full website. And it's important for the board to know that that idea sort of was born from the Tafalon PTO, where they had said, you know what, we're having trouble navigating the website. Could someone kind of help us with that? And fast forward a few months later, our students under the guidance of Deb Peichel created some very well done videos for those purposes. We also are going to receive a special projects under the AV category for Plainville High's intro video for incoming freshmen. That was done by another student, our own Christopher St. Lawrence, and that's going to win an award. But I would really like to thank Lynn Davis for the countless hours she spends putting together our submissions. You have to do it in a very specific way, in a specific time frame, and without her efforts, I don't believe we would have gotten as far along in the process. But I'm really proud of our communication efforts and our publication efforts under Lynn's leadership, and we're going to get some nice awards, both at the CABE conference on Friday, and then we'll get some awards in the spring. CABE will come to the board meeting or send the awards along, and we'll get some plaques. So all around, very positive updates. And last but not least, for my report, we were going to just review our composition of our subcommittees. Earlier this evening, we did have a finance subcommittee meeting, and during that time, there was discussion about a vacancy, and it looks like Crystal St. Lawrence will take the vacant spot on the finance subcommittee. That's currently chaired by Lori Peterson. That will stay the same. It's also comprised of Kathy Wells with Deb Hardy as ex officio. So that was the one vacancy that we had as a result of the recent leadership changes, but now all of our subcommittees are complete. And unless there are any questions, that concludes my report for this evening. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we are going to go to the board subcommittee reports, and we can start with our student representatives reports.
Hello. So first and most importantly this month, we welcome Mr. Johnson into his new position as principal of Plainville High School. Today we celebrated Veterans Day. Each homeroom participated in a door decorating contest, and there was a breakfast held this morning for staff, veterans, and family members of the students. As you saw in the earlier presentation, there were some pictures. Quarter one recently ended, so we're a quarter of the way through the school year, and the beginning of quarter two is this week. Report cards will be sent out on the 14th. Our dramatic theater will be putting on their Dramatic 3, which is 3 acts from 3 different plays on the 16th and the 17th this month. Tuesday, the 20th, the junior and senior girls will play in our annual Powder Puff game, and the boys will be our cheerleaders. Class competition will take place the following day, Wednesday, before Thanksgiving. November 27th is the annual Fall Sports Banquet to honor all of our fall sports, get awards. Very exciting for everybody, especially the seniors. This is their last Fall Sports Banquet. And our Career Day will take place on the 30th.
For sports, boys soccer has their semifinals on a Wednesday in Middletown against Stonington at 6:30, and they're to play for division champs. Girls swim is Wednesday at 7 at Wesleyan for their Class S swim finals. And this year, the football team finished undefeated at home, and they finished their season on Thanksgiving. And girls soccer made it to state tournament for the first time in years, but fell short in a very hard game against Weston last Monday. Volleyball finished their season. Everyone had fun. There was a lot of growth, and the team was very enthusiastic. And cheer season is continuing into the winter. And because of the weather and the rain, the band could not attend the final football game, but this leads us into our transition into concert band, and our winter concert will be in December, probably late December. And then next week, we have our Thanksgiving recess, next Thursday and Friday, and that's it.
Any questions for the girls? No? Okay, moving on to Facilities Subcommittee report. Mrs. Terrell?
So facilities met very briefly this evening, and we did go over some of the progress that's taking place at Wheeler, and we also started to discuss the need to consider plans for the middle school. And we did request, and Mr. Bussell told us that we would have a meeting in December at Wheeler, so we can kind of get a look at what it looks like physically, and also we can continue our discussion about the middle school.
And next, we have the Policy Subcommittee report.
So policy did not meet this month, but there are several policies in the consent agenda for approval for second reading.
And we have the Finance Subcommittee report. Mrs. Peterson?
Tonight, we started just discussing the upcoming budget for the 2018-2019. It's just the start, but it's definitely going to continue on up through probably, maybe, I don't know, into June, July. I don't know, it's a long, continuous process, but we did start tonight discussing, so looking forward to that.
We actually have to have our board approve the budget by the February board meeting and the capital budget by the December board meeting. So it is a lengthy process. It's been in place already since probably September.
Next is the advocacy update.
There's generally no report on that one, but just to say that we will be going to CABE this week. To the. Did you say that four-letter word?
I said that
Oh,
for, yeah,
geez.
that literally is in the forecast.
It is, you're right.
Possibility of shovelable snow
Oh,
on
geez.
Friday morning.
Craziness. But anyway,
It'll be a fun drive to Rock.
we will all remember that Foster was the one that brought it up.
Don't shoot the bearer of bad news. Thank you.
Positive thinking, thank you. And next, we have the Turf Committee report. Dr. Brummett?
There has not been a turf committee meeting in recent months.
Okay. And now we will go on to the Plainville High School report with Foster White.
The PAC meeting was initially scheduled for last Wednesday, but it's been changed to this Wednesday, and I just found out, I think, early this afternoon, that the start time had been 7 o'clock, but it's now going to be 6 o'clock, because that will allow folks to get that done, but also get down to Middleton and see the soccer team in the semifinal.
And next we'll go on to the Toflon Elementary. Mrs. Gonsalves.
Toflon is looking for old photos to use in a slideshow. They're going to be celebrating their 50th birthday party, and that's going to be held on April 26th. So if anyone has any old photos from Toflon's past, please send them along to the school. Also, Toflon celebrated the School Safety Week by honoring our bus drivers and crossing guards. We received a grant of $1,000 from the Main Street Foundation to partially fund 2 science days in December. And they decided that the themes are going to be astronomy and animals. So that should be fun for the kids. Also, lastly, the Toflon Winterfest will be held on Friday, November 30th, from 6 to 8, and it will include games, crafts, food, bake sale, basket raffle, and a wreath sale. So they'll have a lot of fun with that. So also, if you're interested in purchasing wreaths, there'll be a fundraiser for that as well. And that's all.
And next, Linden Elementary. Kathy?
I have recently become the liaison with Linden Street School. I haven't been to a meeting yet. My first meeting is going to be this Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to it, so I'll report at the next meeting.
Thank you. And the middle school with Mrs. St. Lawrence.
We met on October 10th. Let's see if I can remember. So we had a author visit, Phil Bildner, a Nutmeg nominated writer. So the PTC helped fund some of that. We have a bingo game coming up on Wednesday night, a family bingo night. And we're collecting food at that event for the Plainville Food Pantry. So there's no cost, just bringing in food. And our next meeting is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Ms. Palmieri, are you still with us to give a report for Wheeler?
I am, but I did not attend the meeting this month. I don't think it happened yet, actually.
Okay, thank you. And next, the correct council report, Mrs. Terrell.
So the correct council met in October, and I briefly mentioned this in our finance, I think the finance meeting. We did discuss a resolution regarding magnet schools that's been drafted by a group of individuals who, superintendents, Board of Education members from the Hartford region, that CREC has been pulling together to try and get a consensus around the funding problems that the magnet schools are having at this point in time. So really, this resolution calls attention to the lack of funding for CHEF from the state, and it is resulting in increased tuition for districts in the Hartford region. There is a short-term request with this resolution looking for the state to increase funding for the magnet schools so as not to put the burden on individual districts. And there's some long-term draft proposals to look at how this issue can be resolved down the road, viability of the schools, what should be done with them, if there should be a change in the way they're structured and run and that kind of thing. The plan is to hopefully get boards of education to approve this resolution in the region and then present it at the legislative breakfast on January 24th, which is the CABE CREC legislative breakfast. So next month, I think there'll be a little more clarification on it, and we'll probably have it on the agenda and we can discuss it. But I just wanted to kind of make you aware that that's what's happening with that at this point.
If I could just add a little bit to that, excuse me. I attended a meeting recently in which Greg Florio, the executive director of CREC, presented. And, essentially the state has made a shortfall in funding them, and they're getting ready to pass that along to the school districts. If nothing changes with the number of kids we currently have in magnet schools, we will be looking at a $35,000 to $40,000 increase next year if our census in the magnet school stays the same. I have asked Sam to reach out to the correct business manager, where we plan to have some discussions about, all the thinking that went into that. I did attend some of the original meetings too. So we are looking at that, and I appreciate Ms. Terrell's update. But it's a big concern that our tuition could go up quite a bit next year, and CREC's trying to warn us of that, while at the same time trying to get the state to pay what they are supposed to pay. That's the bottom line on that. So thank you very much.
Next, the chairperson's report. Today I was at Tuflin School as well, and I was impressed with what was going on there. It was just amazing. I guess I have no words to say what I actually saw, what these children were doing, and how well they just thanked our veterans for what they do and understood why they were thanking them. It was amazing. We had taps that played, and of course there were some tears in there, and one of them was mine. But thank you to all the veterans that we have. Without you, I don't know where we would be today. And thank you to the school system for the way we present the veterans to our younger children so that they can understand what really goes on in life. And moving on, I was reading in one of the handouts that we had gotten about the 5th grade students who were introduced to the Connecticut Kids Governor. And reading through that, it was amazing because these children they are elected to a 1-year term of acting out as governor in the schools. And it is amazing some of the things that they go through. So I just wanted to bring this up as well. And that's really all I have. Oh, no, I do have one other thing here, and that was the Pumpkin Fest. Thank you to all of the soccer players that came and helped out with gutting and cutting the pumpkins. It, as always, was a lot of fun. Hard work, a little cold, but we managed to get it all done, and it really looked nice at Pumpkin Fest night. So thank you again for allowing our children to participate in all the activities that we have in our towns. And that's the end of my report. And next, we go on to unfinished business. I need a motion to request the the approval of the policies.
We actually moved the policies to the consent agenda.
Okay.
So there's actually no unfinished business.
Okay. New business, board open forum. Anybody have anything to say?
So because I'm home more often than usual right now, I got to see all the news reports today from all the channels, and I can't express how proud I was the way they presented our school system. It really, as a resident of Plainville, as a previous parent of students, as a Board of Ed member, wow. They really showed how incredible we are, and I was happy to be able to be home and see it. I don't know if everybody else was able to see the news yet, but it was really cool.
Anybody else?
Yes, I did want to say, thank you to everybody in the schools who did this work for Veterans Day. It's really important that parents and, most importantly, veterans understand why it is that children in Plainville go to school. I see that, all the time. People start talking about, why are the kids going to school? It's Veterans Day. And across the state, there's pretty much like a 50-50 split with kids going and kids not going. And I think that, I'm going to tell this story again, all right? So one of my kids was in 2nd grade, and the teacher said that she'd give the kids an assignment to come in and talk about Veterans Day, and a lot of the kids would come in and talk about, and what a veteran means to you, and the kids would come in talking about veterinarians. And it was, she said, it's terrible, but the kids really don't understand what it is. And so For years, we talked about trying to have this kind of a program, but you know that you have to be really careful about doing this because you don't want to offend people. You want people to understand what your intent is. And I think we've done a really good job with letting people know that the reason that we're doing this is so that kids don't just have a day off and they don't understand why, so that kids are in school and do things that honor veterans, understand what it is to be a veteran, understand that we have the right to do everything we do because people sacrificed. And it's just beyond important that children in school understand what it is to serve their country. So I do really appreciate everyone's efforts. I know it's a hard thing. There's a lot that goes into it, but it really is something that's important. So really, from my heart. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, I was able to attend a focus group on special education. There's a group in the state who are looking at a different way of making special education funding more predictable. It's in the very early stages of inception. I'm sure you heard about this. And it's just you might hear about it. These folks are going around and they're meeting in like 9 different locations and talking to Board of Education members and superintendents and business managers about what the issues are with special education funding. And this group can only talk to certain things like the predictability issue, but they won't talk about the things that really impact special education funding more. That's their, and it's not their fault. This is the charge they were given by the state. So it's a kind of a complicated issue. It was very interesting to hear a lot of the superintendents that were in the room when I was there kept going back to those things that they were not charged to talk about and saying, you can't talk about a solution for special education funding if you can't talk about things like burden of proof and, all these other different issues that impact special education funding. So I did go mostly to listen because I'm not qualified to speak about the real timing of things and the real issue with things, but it was interesting to go and attend that, and we'll just have to keep our ears open to see what comes of this group that's trying to come up with a solution. So that's it for me.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I just would like to really bring note of one thing that Dr. Brummett mentioned about the CAVE Awards, but also the fact that the events took place this morning and a very amazing member of the staff, Lynn Davis, is so responsible for getting all of this information of the good news of Plainville Community Schools out to the world. That's the reason why Channel 3 and Channel 4 show up at events, and that the school system gets these awards, but more important, that the community is aware of the good work that's going on. And I don't think you go to an event around Plainville Community Schools that you will not see Lynn Davis there, hard at work. And not only that, but she is also directly responsible for a substantial decrease in our expenses for utilities, for gas and electric, and you still walk around all the buildings and you see the little signs to keep, turn the lights off when to leave the room. And there are a couple in my house, and it's really helped there too. But I just want to thank Lynn for all the work that you have done in getting the news out about the good things that are happening in Plainville Community Schools. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, going on to the consent agenda, Mr. Adelstein.
Me?
Yes? Budget.
Need a motion to have it approved.
I think there's no special education report. I think that's the.
Yeah, my name is special education, but the next one we do is in January.
He's off the hook till January.
That's what I didn't ask.
We can just look at his report, but he doesn't have to talk to us about it. I can make a motion to approve the consent agenda as long as no one has anything they want to remove off of it.
All in favor?
Aye. And motion to adjourn.
The record.
Meeting adjourned.